If you're looking at buying your first full suspension mountain bike, it's common to see bike companies and riders pushing $2,000 as the bare minimum you should spend. But I'm here to tell you that you don't need to spend that much for a decent entry-level full suspension mountain bike. This is the Polygon Siskiu D7, which packs a lot of value for $1,200. It features a boost frame with 120mm of air travel front and rear. The bike features a short stem, tapered head tube, and internal cable routing. The front fork is a RockShox Recon RL with the through axle matched to a non-boost Shimano hub and a 180mm rotor in the front. The handlebars are Entity branded and measure in at 780mm wide. The bike comes standard with Entity locking grips and Shimano BR-M201 hydraulic disc brakes. The bike's shifting lever is a Shimano SLX M7000. This shifter features two ways to upshift. You can either use your thumb or index finger to shift into a higher gear. The Siskiu features a 1x11 drivetrain. The rear derailleur is a Shimano Dior XT RD8000, paired to a Sunrace 11-46 tooth cassette that provides plenty of range to tackle tough climbs. The bike ships with WTB Trail Boss tires front and rear, which are paired to Entity's X15 double-walled rims, which are tubeless compatible. I installed a Maxxis Minion DHF up front to test out the tubeless capabilities of the bike, since the Trail Boss tires were not tubeless compatible. The rear shock is an X-Fusion 02 Pro RL E2. The shock features a lockout, which can improve efficiency on climbs, and the shock also has rebound adjustment. The bike's suspension design is a single pivot faux bar system. This means that the bike has 4 pivot points that it flexes at in response to bumps and drops. The bike ships with alloy flat pedals and has, in my opinion, a cool two-tone paint scheme. You also might have noticed by now that almost every component on this bike is provided by Entity. There is space for a water bottle, but there is not enough room for a normal size water bottle. Having put over 100 miles on the bike, I think I have a good grasp on what the bike does well and what it could improve on. I purchased the 29er version in a large frame, so I can't speak to how the smaller 27.5 version rides, but I imagine the ride characteristics are somewhat similar. Before we discuss the pros and cons, we need to take into consideration who this bike is targeted at and what terrain it's designed for. This is an entry-level full suspension mountain bike advertised as a cross-country bike. That being said, it would be unrealistic to expect this bike to perform well at a downhill park or on rough technical descents. When I first took the bike out, I instantly noticed how easily the bike got up to speed, and that it was very stable at those higher speeds. This is due to the bike having long reach and long chainstays. Just look at the gap in between the rear tire and the frame. It's designed with stability in mind. And this can be very confidence-inspiring for a new rider. My local trails are cross-country oriented, and the bike pairs very well with the trail system. The suspension does a good job at keeping you planted on the trail. I've been very surprised by the X-Fusion shock. I haven't noticed much of a difference between it and the RockShox Monarch on my main trail bike. The Shimano drivetrain works very well. Normally this price range is dominated by SRAM SX or NX. It was nice to try out something different, and I have to say I feel like the XT derailleur shifts smoother and quieter than my NX derailleur. However, there are some things that I don't like about this bike, but most of these are nitpicky, and if this is your first bike, you probably won't know any different. While this bike is very stable, I don't find it to be all that maneuverable. The long chain stays paired with the 780mm wide bars make this bike very hard to throw around on fast, twisty turns. I feel like I have to work a lot harder to maneuver this bike as compared to my main trail bike. For me, on the larger frame, the bottom bracket height paired with the 175mm cranks caused a ton of pedal strikes. I was told to try to adjust my sag on my shock and make sure that my tires and front fork were aired up correctly in order to combat the pedal strikes. So I followed their advice, only to find out that I was still pedal striking all the time. Because of this, I've had to slightly alter my line choices and when I choose to pedal, but it is by no means a deal breaker. I converted the bike to tubeless almost immediately, and it worked out well for about 50 miles. After that, I got a flat and discovered it was leaking right at the valve stem. The wheel set isn't exactly centered, it kind of has an offset design, This makes it hard for the O-ring to seat properly. I took the tire off, retaped it, put more sealant in, and tried to see if I could get the O-ring to seat better, and so far it's holding really strong. Overall though, I'm extremely impressed with this bike, especially at the $1,200 price point. For $1,200 you're getting a boost frame, an X-Fusion shock, and a RockShox fork up front, a tapered head tube, tubeless ready wheel set, and a Shimano drivetrain. I would highly recommend this bike to my friends or anyone getting into their first full suspension bike on a limited budget. Right now, I don't think there is any other bike offering a better value than the Siskiu. So what do you guys think about the bike? Let me know in the comments section below. Also, if you like this content and want to see more, please like and subscribe.